Hello, thank you everybody for coming. My name is Kit Rackley. I work for the World Energy and Meteorology Council, and we are based at the University of East Anglia in Norwich, United Kingdom. So I'm absolutely delighted that you can join us today. We have a lot of things to do today. It's going to be interactive. I'm quite looking forward to this. So, okay, let's make a start. And the first thing, the other thing I was going to mention is we do like to promote things on social media. And if you love social media, I would say a little bit addicted like me, then please do use the C3S Edu hashtag as we go along, and you can kind of take screenshots how you're getting on and what you're doing, and just kind of like have that chat online if that's your kind of thing. Right, so a little bit of housekeeping to start with. If for those of you veterans of the, so let's all check in, please. What I'd like you to do is that at the very least, you can please use the chat function, the Zoom chat function here. I'd like you to, at the very least, to type, just to introduce yourself, who you are, your name. I've put school with an asterisk after that. You don't have to give the name of the school you're at if you're a teacher. If that's something you cannot do, that's absolutely not a problem. But if you can state your school and organisation, that'd be great. And one of these two things, just one short sentence about what you've hoped to get out of this workshop, or one way you might use any interactive tool, not just this one, but any interactive tool to promote climate and energy science. Now, if you are happy to verbalise your check-in for 30 seconds max, do raise your hand and I will turn the mic over to you. So I'll do my check-in. I kind of already introduced myself, but my 30-second check-in. So my name's Kit Rackley. I'm the Education and Programme Officer here at the World Energy and Meteorology Council. What do I hope to get out of this workshop? Well, interaction with people across the world in industry and teachers in particular about how we can really bring climate science and energy science in a really interactive visual way to young people. It's something that's close to my heart, and I'm really kind of looking forward to showing you what the tool is all about and what we can do to go forward. So that's my check-in. Okay, so Thomas, so some from Vestas, excellent. So it's nice to have, Thomas is a really fantastic example of the people that WEMC work with, really. That's a meteorologist based at the major renewables company, so Vestas. I mean, I'm pretty certain that the vast majority, if not all of you, know who Vestas are. And please do continue to check in. We still have another 5-6 of you to check in. So thank you, Anna Maria. Thank you, Mara. Thank you, Claire. And if you keep that going, it'll be fantastic. Okay. See, the people who are hot with that task get a bit of a head start with the next one, you see. So obviously this is a workshop, there's interactive elements to it. So I'm about to show you a video demonstration. This was shown at the webinar earlier this month. So what I'm like you to do here is open up a web browser, a separate web browser, and I would like you to navigate to www.menti.com, and the code when you are asked for it is 843396. Now, those of you who are teachers here, what I like to do when I deliver training is not just deliver the objectives of the training, but as I go along, show and demonstrate tools that might be useful in your teaching. So Mentimeter, as this is known as, is an exceptionally powerful tool that you can use to poll and gauge the opinions and attitudes of your students. So mosey on over to Mentimeter there, and the code is 843396. So this is what it looks like on my output screen. So there are three questions here for you. And the second question, I'd like you to wait until towards the end or after the video I'm about to show you. So the questions are, how confident are you in these three things? So teaching, engaging in outreach about climate energy issues. Using GIS interactive map tools in your teaching outreach. Now notice I've put outreach activities there because I realize that not all of you are teachers, but I'm assuming, or maybe it's safe to assume, that you are either interested or have engaged in or plan to engage in outreach activities, whether it is with high school students, young people, or the general public, wherever. Otherwise, I wouldn't. Otherwise, it'd be interesting to know what your thoughts here. So, and not surprising at all that we can see that the third one now, how confident are you in using the C3S Edu Demo specifically at this very moment, is exceptionally low. Good. This is the first time we've run something like this about the C3S Edu Demo. So that's not surprising. And hopefully by the end of this workshop, we'll get that nudged up a tiny bit so you can imagine what question you're going to be asked a bit later. The other thing I like about Mentimeter as well is that if I put my mouse over here, you can see the spread of the opinions. So we know that the mean or the average can hide things. So you can see how the spread here about what people feel about these things. So that's not surprising there. Okay. So please do continue to check in if you've just arrived or you didn't quite catch my instruction earlier. You're using the chat box to check in, say who you are. So thank you, Kevin, acknowledged. Who you are and what your job is and what you are hoping to get out of this. And then keep your Menti open, because the next question that comes up will be regarding the video itself. So, and the question is, what are your initial thoughts about the C3S Edu Demonstrator? Okay. Now, when I tested this a bit before, this did lag a tiny little bit. So we'll persist and we'll see how we go, but it should be definitely functional. Okay, here we go. This is the Climate and Energy Education Demonstrator, a tool developed to allow you to explore climate and energy variables from historical data to future projections. This tool will show you how the main functions of the demonstrator works and give some examples of how it can be used in a learning environment. When the tool first loads, you are presented with a globe showing the latest historical average annual temperature for Europe, instinctively showing blues for cooler areas and reds for warmer ones. Under the variable icons, you can change how the data is displayed on the map and on the graph with these filters. For the currently displayed variable, you can also download the data as a CSV file and a PDF fact sheet which gives you interesting information, facts, a mini case study and glossary. During this demo, you'll see some of these features in action, but let's start by showing you how we can get an even finer spatial scale to look at temperature spatial patterns across Europe. The pattern of average annual temperatures has become even clearer, and you can even see the differences within countries very clearly. When we move the mouse cursor to hover over an area, its data point will pop up as a tooltip. The legend in the bottom right is also dynamic and has been designed to interpret the map. Notice as I move the mouse cursor over the map, an area's data value appears in the legend over the corresponding color category. This feature will help users to understand how CorePath mapping works, and this demonstrates that the tool can be used to practice graphical skills as well as messages that come from analysing the data itself. Let's have a closer look here in the bottom right at one of the most powerful but simple functions of the tool, the slider. Notice that the left side is coloured and the right side is hashed. That's because the tool can cycle through historical data, currently 1979 to 2016, but also onto projected data onto the future and climate models up to 2100. In one simple click or drag to the end of the slider, we can learn one very important message. Ready? Keep an eye on the map. Notice how there are fewer blues and more reds and even darker reds on the map. Instinctively, we can tell from the map that Europe is projected to warm during this century. This map is now showing projected annual average temperatures for 2100 under a high carbon emission scenario. Again, just using a single click, we can explore changes to a deeper level. Let's take the Swiss Alps, for instance. Now the graph is showing how the selected variable changes in time, from recent past into the future, and lo and behold, it only needs a quick glance to see that indeed warming is not only expected to take place, but the historical record, represented by the orange line, clearly shows that warming has already been occurring. The blue and purple lines show the changes in temperature based on climate models, purple under a high carbon emission scenario and blue a low carbon emission scenario. You'll notice there is some information above the graph, giving you some highlight figures. The temperature for the Swiss Alps, averaging out the whole temperature record between 1981 and 2010, was 3.36 degrees Celsius. We call this the long-term mean, and you can see that represented by the dashed orange line on the graph. But no matter what the emission scenario, low or high, you can see those blue and purple lines rise above that average figure. The tool can display more than just temperature. It can plot a number of other climate variables and some energy ones too. The other variables are wind speed at 10 meters in height, total precipitation, solar radiation, solar PV energy, electricity demand, and wind energy. Let's have a quick look at one of the energy variables, electricity demand. Here we can see the historical patterns of electricity demands across Europe and what they are projected to be based on different energy scenarios. The ability to change the temporal scale for any one of the climate and energy variables can help us to explore patterns even further. Changing from annual to seasonal, for example, shows us how electricity demand changes between different seasons, and this can help spark investigations on why this might be the case. Dragging over an area of a graph allows you to zoom in and explore the differences in data a little bit more closely. So, those are the basics, and I think you'll agree that even though we are yet to play around with other variables, options and filters, you can already learn quite a lot. So, what might this learning look like? Well, the tool is designed to allow teachers to set their own learning objectives. It is essentially a geographical information system, or GIS, and so lends itself perfectly to inquiry-based learning in particular. So let's have a think about this inquiry question. Will extreme weather events today become the norm in the future? Now, one approach to this question is to look at the data from one or more extreme weather events that students may have studied. Since the tool allows us to explore historical data on a daily scale, we can see their signals clearly on both the map and the graph. The 2003 European heatwave, for example, was exceptional and deadly, resulting in 70,000 deaths, with the country of France suffering particularly. What is worth noting, and really quite incredible, is that these are average temperatures for each 24-hour period during the heatwave, so it includes the relative cool of nighttime. In fact, daytime temperatures broke 40 degrees Celsius in France. But could this abnormal extreme weather event, such as heat waves like this, ever become normal in the future? Well, let's average out the temperatures by season and look particularly at summer. There is that summer of 2003. Wow, that is a very clear extreme heat signal in the data. Now, if we look at temperature anomalies, which is the difference compared to the 1981 to 2010 average temperature, we can see that the summer of 2003 in France was 3.25 degrees Celsius warmer than average. So, the question is, when will similar temperatures become a frequent, almost year-to-year occurrence? Well, the graph makes it very clear to see. So by the 2070s, under a high carbon emission scenario, a summer like the one in 2003 could be seen every year, and beyond that, even warmer. And although the low emission scenario temperatures on average don't quite get there, they certainly will mean such extreme weather events will become more normal and more frequent. Now, no matter what European country we click on, we can see the same warming trend. So we can conclude that the extreme heat wave events that have been taking place in Europe recently, such as those in 2003, or even more recently last summer, are projected to become normal conditions by the 2070s. Thanks for watching, and we hope you're now really looking forward to giving the tool a go yourself. So let's just return to the Menti screen and we'll see what some of these comments look like. Right, so we have 2 comments so far. So if we just give a little bit of more time to add this, to have a look at these. So we've got here, interested in using data interest in using data in deepening climate change topic students. Very accessible, interactive tool to make comparisons between different countries at times. Excellent. So don't be shy with the comments. I mean, if you feel there is something like, I wonder if, or could it do this, or it doesn't seem to be able to do this, whatever, you know, those comments are absolutely useful too. But these are your initial thoughts, of course. Excellent, useful, very useful web easy to operate for students. So we have tested the tool with students actually quite extensively. We have particularly a school here in Norfolk, Attleborough Academy, Norfolk, and I won't go into too much detail because you'll see them in just a moment. Did give a test for it, and 98 of them got their teeth into the tool, and particularly their hackers club, as they call them, which is basically their nickname for their computer science club. And yeah, they went to town on it, and we got some really fantastic feedback from them. So to make you aware, we have indeed ensured that students, not just teachers, have been involved to help us with the development of this tool. Okay. Right, so this really is going to test who is active and or passive. Is we are going to give you a little quiz, and this is mostly for functional reasons to see if this works. So I'm going to send you a poll now, and this poll has 3 questions in there. So let's see if you can answer these questions. Now there's it's anonymous. You see if you can glean this on the video. So you're not going to get like a red flag next to your name or anything like that if you get any of these wrong. It's purely just for fun and just for testing that the poll is working, because there's going to be some actual questions later on using the polling system while you're using a demonstrator tool. Right, so the 3 questions are: what color was the left-hand side of the slider while air temperature was being displayed? Oh, I've just realized that I have some screenshots on the screen for those of you who are observant. Number 2, under a high emission scenario, what is the projected 2035 to 64 long-term mean temperature for the Swiss Alps? Okay, so my screenshot's not so clear on that one, but maybe you can see it. And number 3, which date was first selected using the calendar when switching to the daily map plot to explore the 2003 European heatwave? Okay, ooh, okay. So quite a few of you kind of missed on that one. Okay, right. So that's I'm pretty. Thank you, Anna Maria, and we'll make sure that we'll send you the recording and things like that. So, okay, I'm going to end the polling there and share the results. So, yeah, so the answer to question 1 is red, and you can see just there. And what we've done there, and there is the icons, the variable icons at the top left, are all certain colors just to make them distinct and contrasting for those who need very contrasting colors with their eyesight. So what we've done, we've matched the slider, the historical part of the slider, with the color of the icon there. Under a high emission scenario, that was the Swiss Alps long-term mean could be projected to be 4.62 degrees Celsius. That's the answer to the second question there. And then the last one is that when I showed the demonstration of how you can look at a specific weather event, such as the 2003 European heatwave, the first date I clicked on was the 1st of August 2003. All right. Okay. Right, so we're going to go back to the chat now here. The good news is again for passive participants, if you do have a sparking thought and you want to jot something down, this is quite an ideal use to use so. And after this, and I absolutely promise, unless any of you who have already messaged me say you need to leave, then you will get the link to the tool after this slide. I absolutely promise. Okay, because the quiz is going to be actually you need to use the tool to find out the answers to the quiz. Okay, so I'm absolutely delighted to say that we have a nice little recording coming up here of an interview I did on Friday with a geography teacher here in the UK and 2 of her geography students. And I asked her and her students a various range of questions. But there's 2 questions in particular I really would like your input in from your point of view. So, and these 2 questions are set on the screen here. So this is a good idea to screenshot this if you want to pay attention to the video instead. So, but the two questions I'd like you to think about are, what do you think are the most important elements, topics of climate and energy that students should learn? And the second one is, how important is GIS, which stands for Geographical Information Systems, to students, and in what ways does the education demonstrator help to teach GIS skills? So as I say, I mention other questions, we talk about other things, so if you would prefer to respond to anything else that we're discussing, that's absolutely not a problem whatsoever. But they are the two ones which would be quite useful for you to respond to. Oh yeah, and there's the tweet of the Hackers Club that I mentioned a bit earlier, of them really going at the demonstrator just to prove that we really did give it a good run with the students. So welcome, thank you very much. So we are here having a discussion with some people here from Attenborough High School. Hello guys.
Hi.
Hi. So we have here Millie, you give us a wave, Millie, and Eloise, and Miss Billin. Millie and Eloise, what year group are you in?
10.
Year 10, so you're doing what we call in the UK your GCSEs?
Yes.
Yep, awesome. Good luck with those. So for those people who aren't aware, Attenborough High School is a high school, a co-educational state school in the east of England, here in the United Kingdom. And we're here to talk about the C3S Education Demonstrator, which we launched in November, that WEMC launched in November. And we want to get a teacher's and a student's point of view, but not just about the tool itself, but a kind of about climate and energy stuff in general. So to get your points of view and whatnot. So thank you. The first question I really wanted to ask you was, from your perspective, both as teachers and students, what do you think is the most important aspects to learn about climate or to learn about energy in your opinion? So we start with Miss Billin first.
Okay, so in terms of energy and climate, I think for me, it's really understanding the impacts that our actions as humans have on the natural environment. And I think it's really important for students to identify fact from fiction. There's a lot of false media out there, and I think it's really important that our students are given the ability to critically evaluate the information that they're given, and be able to see the science behind the changes that are going on in our global society. And I think that it's also important that students know that climate change isn't affecting all of us equally around the world as well, and understanding that some of us, like here in the UK, have got more of a capability to adapt to changes than those in LIC countries. And I think that's really important, that we see ourselves as a global community and not just thinking for ourselves. Yeah, we can support ourselves in that, but actually we need to be supporting LICs as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So, what do you think about that, Millie and Eloise? Do you what aspects what about from a student's point of view, which parts do you feel that Miss Billin has said that you really identify with in terms of climate energy? What would you want to know as students?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the idea of like knowing as humans what we're doing that's impacting our climate, and also some of the more like natural causes and what's really changing over the time that we're sort of affecting.
Yeah, I agree. I said like we should learn more about how to prevent taking actions that like we think is not doing anything to our planet, but in reality it like all adds up to global warming. Like if after school children buy like a product with single-use packaging, like that might be one small piece, but if everyone like stops doing that, then it could like make a change.
Yeah, I found it really interesting actually what you said about the fake news and the data. You know, it's quite rife at the moment, you know, misinformation and trying to use factual information, of course. And one thing we hope that the tool does is to provide the opportunity for you to explore the data yourself and see it. And also the other thing that you said as well, Ms. Benning, was regarding to how the changes in the climate and the energy systems are not even across the world. And another thing that you can do by comparing graphs and a map to see how those changes are going to be different from one place in Europe in particular to another place in Europe. So it's really interesting you said that. A question I got for the students actually here is how inspired or how much hope or inspiration have you taken from youth figures like Greta Thunberg? Do you follow Greta quite closely?
Yeah, I see her posts on Instagram, like she's travels around the world, like doing eco-friendly things. I think that's quite inspiring to young people, try and like take after her.
Yeah, same. I see her on the news sometimes as well, and I just sort of think I should probably start doing some of the things that she does and improving my ways of helping the environment.
Awesome, because I've definitely seen myself, youth empowerment quite a fair bit, and I think having the tools behind you to support that would be fantastic. And in what ways do you feel that the tools like the Education Demonstrator can help you to spread that message?
It helps us to identify what are the problems, and it's something that's interactive, so it's easy for people to understand and easy for people to work with. So people are going to want to use it and want to find out more about it.
I think if you give students statistics, they might walk away and not remember it, but if you give them an image, they can visualize and remember them more, because it's more engaging for them to look at and figure out.
Yeah, so this is mostly, a question for all of you, but mostly for Miss Byrne, is that, do you feel that the conversation taking place and the rise of people like Greta Thunberg has changed the conversation a bit, has increased the demand for tools that you can explore the changes in climate?
Yeah, I definitely feel the awareness of global issues relating to climate and it goes wider than that, it's like plastic and things. Definitely a lot more in my 10 years of teaching. Just feel that students are wanting that information and they want to know. I'm hearing all these headlines. Well, where's the actual evidence to back that up? And it's really nice to hear that, like, girls are following people like Greta on Instagram, and it's nice to see that social media platforms being used for awareness and not just for selfies. So it's really nice to have that that's accessible to students, and using tools like the GIS tool is just like completely agree with what the girls are saying. It just gives that visual impact. You cannot hide the fact that those temperatures are clearly rising throughout the historical data and all those predictive models as well. I just feel like that just is there. It's plain simple to understand.
Yeah, and you mentioned GIS. So for people who are not aware, who are watching this, GIS stands for Geographical Information Systems, and actually they're more common, and people know about these more than they're not. So in a nutshell, these are basically interactive maps that you can click on and explore some data. So actually, with that in mind, so I know Millie and Eloise, through Miss Bill and other subjects, you've done a lot of GIS, particularly in geography. So a question for you is, what do you think about the Education Demonstrator? Does it match a GIS? Is it, when you look at it and you think, oh yeah, that's a GIS? And in what ways do you think it is a GIS?
Yeah, I think it's got lots of useful features, like the shading of the countries, like depending on the numbers, and it's quite useful how you can see the statistics for each individual year instead of like a wider time span of 10 years. It's helpful to do research as well, and like if there are any events that affected our climate more than others.
Yeah, we can use it to help us back up answers and use as evidence and things for answers in exams and questions. So that's always useful.
And I like the fact that you've got different layers of information that you can show. So you've got you don't just have temperature, but you've got energy use changes and potential for solar panel photovoltaics, etc. So there's lots of different information that you can switch between and able to make some comparisons to, which is useful.
Yeah, and actually it's very interesting what you say, because when I was teaching, one thing I really, really invested a lot in was inquiry-based learning. And I know that modern syllabuses now, both national syllabus and syllabuses such as the International Geography Baccalaureate, do a lot of inquiry-based learning. So the ability to kind of compare maps and compare the data and actually answer a question using the data is very, very, very powerful.
Yeah, currently thinking about doing a decision-making exercise lesson with the Year 10 students using the Edu Demo as well, and just seeing, posing that question to them and then having a decision that students have to make, and it won't matter which kind of side that they come on, so long as they can justify it and find that information. It'd be interesting to see what they can get out of it, really.
Okay. So with the tool specifically, what kind of things, can you name certain specific things about it that you really enjoy the most or you really find useful? So Millie, what do you think?
It's like Eloise already said, I really like the timeline, because a lot of graphs you find on the internet are like, say, 2010 to 2020, and it's harder to see the actual change because you've got a wider span of sort of like statistics. Whereas when you can see each individual year, it helps us understand more, you know, the years that are lower or higher, or we're doing worse in or better in, and it's just a lot better for our research.
Yeah, like I said before, I think the colours are good because you can like visualise instead of having to read the facts. You can easily tell like what countries are better and worse.
And for me as a teacher, getting the students to engage with geographical information and improve their essentially numeracy skills as well, being able to extrapolate data, being able to see a range of accuracy as well. So it's one of the layers that you can add on using the tool to see that actually there is some uncertainty in some of the values, and that there is quite a bit of overlap between even the highest and the lowest predictions that climate models are forecasting. So being able to kind of explore those in something a bit more engaging, where they can control that media interface as well, which is really useful, rather than just seeing a static graph. It's obviously moving and evolving over time.
Okay, awesome. And we, as I've mentioned before, we know that the tool is still in development, and there are improvements being made all the time. So the question is that we know it's not perfect at the moment. It will never be perfect because we want to improve it the whole time. So what do you think is kind of like, if you were to have a wish list, or if there was a particular annoyance about it that you would change? So what kind of improvements do you think we could make to it?
I said it'd be good to see the difference in air temperature and like electricity demand, etc. in major cities as well as the countries, because often it's the cities that are producing the most CO2 as well as like the rural areas.
Yeah, and maybe some statistics to do with waste as well, like in different cities, or in around perhaps the coastlines or somewhere like that.
And I said quite useful at the moment. The timeline is you click through kind of timeline. So maybe like a play button where you can play and pause, so it automatically runs the animation, as it was. I know it's not an animation, but it just shows it, so you can just play it and just watch it as it's going through, just to show those gradual changes. That'd be quite useful as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time this morning. I know you're eager to get back to class, and you're eager to get back to planning, preparation, assessment. But
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and for your time.
Cheers. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, that was a really enjoyable chat that we had, and yeah, it's really interesting to get their perspective, their points of view. So we're going to need to move swiftly on, which is fine. This is the bit you kind of all been waiting for, if you so wish. So particularly if we come off of that. Right, here it is. For those of you who have not seen it already, this is the link that you need. So what I'm actually going to do is that I'm going to do this as a bit of a baptism of fire for those of you who have not yet seen the tool. And I'm not going to, well, it's not so much I'm going to do away with the 5-10 minutes familiarization. And can I just ask at this stage, don't yet comment on feedback on bugs, frustrations, etc. You will get the chance to do that very shortly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually launch the quiz immediately. But I still, trying to find the answers to the quiz is a good way to familiarize yourself with the tool anyway. So you're kind of doing those contemporaneously is not going to be a problem at all. Once this is done, we'll take a little short break, and then we'll get on to some group work. So off you go then. So https c3s-edu.wemcouncil.org. So I'm hoping that you're all having a good rummage through there. I just noticed that my video's not, there we go. So on there, and I'm going to launch the quiz, which you can go through at your own pace. And there it is. Okay, so the 5 of you who have completed, 6 of you now who have completed the quiz, you have a whole 1.5 minutes of free play time on the on the demonstrator. Okay, the results are quite encouraging, which means that you all seem to be finding out what you need to find out, which is good. When I reveal the answers, if you realize you're one of the people who got a wrong answer, as I say, what's actually the point of the quiz is that it'd be really, really fantastic. Like I've already had a few, which is fantastic, but it'd be really, really good if you thought, oh, I thought it was this, so obviously you found this tricky to find out, or it wasn't quite clear, all those kind of things. So when I do go through the answers in a moment, just before our break, it'd be fantastic if you're able to just give me a few words or a sentence to say, oh, right, I did this, and so obviously wasn't in the right place, or it wasn't easy to find out. All of these questions should not be challenging to find the answer out, but of course I'm someone who's helped develop the tool itself, and it's easy for me. This is the problem with the teacher, isn't it? Is that sometimes we need people who haven't seen things, not familiar things, to test things out and to see how things work. Okay, now, so there are 3 of you who have not completed, so 15 minutes is up. So I'm going to give another 15 seconds for you to just go bump, bump, bump with whatever's remaining on that, and then I'm going to end the poll. So 15 seconds from now, and then I'm going to close the poll. Okay. Right. So, so to go through these answers then, so the first question is, how many variables can you explore using the education demonstrator? So there are 7, and so the way you do that is to click on the variable icon there, and you get 7 variables that appear. And the next one is, good, so we got some more feedback coming in there, fantastic. Question 2, currently from which year does the data switch from historical to projected? And by projected, we mean those ones which are based on models, and that is 2017. So we're currently working on a data set called derived from era interim, and that goes from 2016. So but hopefully we're moving on to era 5, which will be more up-to-date information. All variables on all temporal resolutions have data ranging from 1979 to 2100. Actually, that's not true. If you click on one of the energy variables, for example, you'll notice that you can only select up to 2065. And when you go to things like, if you go to a daily data set, then as some of you would know, you could only look at historical information, and there's no projected dailies. It's maybe one day when we've got quantum computing and as such, maybe we can, but that's a task that we can't project daily into the future beyond really the weather scales. Okay, what's the average annual temperature in Spain in 2016? So that is 15.12 degrees Celsius. So if I go back to annual here, and you just put your mouse over Spain there, you got the answer there. So 15.12 degrees Celsius, because the tool loads up by default in 2016 there. And was this higher or lower than the year before? Vast majority, you got this right. So what you then wanted to do was just move the slider back a year, and there it's 15.28. So actually, the average of 2016 in Spain was slightly lower than the average in 2015. So that's the answer to the. That's also the answer to the next question, which is what historically was the hottest year on average in Spain? And to do that, you call up the graph and then just look at all these peaks. So the options you were given were 1995. So if you mouse over there. There we go, that was 15.16. 2011, 15.22, so that's the winner at the moment, but it was 2015 according to this historical record, so that was the answer there. What was the temperature anomaly for that year in Spain? So here you would change your statistics from absolutes to anomalies, and go back to 2015 again, or you could use the graph either way, and then the answer there is 0.99, so degrees Celsius here. Okay, looking at precipitation projections, which of these statements is untrue? So changing to precipitation, it doesn't matter if you've got absolutes or anomalies there. But the answer, the untrue statement there is most Mediterranean countries are projected to get wetter, because actually if you click on, say, Norway, you'll see that so we have the projections there. We go to anomalies, sorry. Oh, we are anomalies, yeah. Go to absolutes. that would be a bit clearer. So we can see that that trend is upwards for Norway, but for some of these Mediterranean countries, the trend is downwards, which is quite an interesting north-south split there in Europe. Which two countries were the first to produce solar PV? So that's solar radiation kit. So let's try that one again. So solar PV here. And the way to answer this question would be to go back to as early as you possibly can and just keep flicking forward until the first two countries pop up, and which are going to be anytime. So there's the first and there's the second. So Italy and Spain, in terms of, I mean, there might have been generation taking place in other countries, but in terms of what this tool measures, the lowest is 0.01 terawatts per hours. It's Spain and Italy that turn up. So I know some of you might be shouting at me saying, no, it wasn't Italy and Spain, it was this. Okay, but at the magnitude that we're measuring here, which is relevant for the tool. And lastly, across most of Europe, under which of these energy models scenarios project the greatest increase in electricity demand? Yeah, this one was, I wouldn't say it's a trick question, but as I dug into this question a lot more, actually, I found that the more countries I clicked on, the more inconclusive this was. It tended to be fossil, carbon capture, and nuclear, so which tend to have a higher demand in general. So, but quite a lot of the 100% renewable ones, people were demanding quite a lot of electricity as well. So that's when you go back into electricity demand and you looked at those. Okay, so anyway, that was my train of thought of why I gave you that quiz, and hopefully it just got you to a bit more familiarizing yourself with different aspects of that. I feel it's exceptionally important now, because we've been on the screen, some of us, well, we started roughly about an hour ago, so so we've had our eyes on the screen about an hour ago. So I'm actually very, very keen that we do have a little break, even though we could move straight on. So you've got 5 minutes, have a bit of a comfort break here. If you would like, I hope you're feeling all refreshed now, thanks to Nuffield Health. I say no affiliation or partnership, just what I found on YouTube. Okay, so we are going to finish off our workshop with two more activities. So as this workshop has gone on, you'll see it's got more and more over to you kind of thing. So I've taken down notes here of people who are staying passive, so we can make sure we can group people up accordingly. Excellent stuff. Right, so this is what's going to happen next. Is I'm going to give everybody a little bit of a task here. We're lasting about 15 minutes-ish. I'm going to put you into small groups, and I'm going to assign you an inquiry-based question. So something which we discussed on the video, which is very, very common to teaching. It's trying to find out the answer and how would you go about finding the answers. So what you would do, therefore, you would go back on the tool each individually yourself, and you'd be free to roam and explore and do what you want. And the good thing about the breakout rooms is that you should now feel free to discuss verbally with each other. You can do it via the chat, that's absolutely no problem whatsoever, but you'll find the communication being a lot easier if your microphone's switched on and working and you're able to chat to each other. So I think with the number of people here, it'd be a good idea to maybe pair you up. So I'll put you into maybe groups of 2, and then you should feel quite comfortable talking to each other there. You can delegate a note taker if you'd like to record your thoughts using the chat function. And what I'm going to do at the end of towards the end of the activity, is come around and make sure I've got those chats saved, so we've got a record of those. And there is an ability to ask for help, and you'll see that when you go into the breakout room. You'll see there's an option to ask me and call me over, and I can come and help you and whatnot, because I understand that some of you in the room are not teachers, so there'll be certain things which you may need support on, which is absolutely fine. Okay, so this is one of those screens that would be a good idea to take a quick screenshot of, because in testing I realized that when I put you in your breakout rooms, you no longer see my screen. I do have a link to this, but it'll be a bit slow coming to you as I'm moving around the group. So here is what you're going to do. So once I've given you this inquiry question, and for me to do that, I will come around to your room and give you your inquiry question. So while I'm doing that, feel free to take the opportunity to introduce yourselves to each other. But there are 5 things that I'd like you to discuss, and it really does not matter if you don't get around to doing all 5 of these things, okay? These are just focused discussion points, and you're quite happy for you and your peers to start with the ones that you feel are more relevant to you, or you could get your teeth in a bit more. So whatever the inquiry question I give you, so like the one, for example, on the demonstration video is, when will extreme weather events of today become the norm in the future? So that's an example of an inquiry question. So with the inquiry question I give you in mind, here are the 5 prompts that I'd like you to discuss. So things like which variables, so very simple logistical things like which variable filters would you use to investigate this inquiry question? You know, were you using the map or the graph mostly? You know, why was that the case? Was it more of a visual or statistical kind of thing that you were doing? For those of you who are not teachers, you'll notice there's 2 things there with regards to how would they link to a school syllabus or to geographical, statistical, graphical skills? Well, I've given you some links there that you can go and have a look at the Geography International Baccalaureate. So you've got an index kind of thing to kind of to link to there. All right. So as you're kind of getting you ready to go, so while I'm sorting this out for you, if you would like to make sure you've got the education demonstrator straight up and running, get yourself your shoulders rolled, just like you saw in the video there. So I am going to put you in. Okay, some of you will be in 3s. Are some parts of Europe more suitable for renewable energy than others?
Ooh.
Are some parts of Europe more suitable for renewable energy than others? Now, of course, I've got the benefit. I also have the prompts in front of me because I'm on the host screen. So
Okay, you also have an advantage over me in terms of the educational perspective.
mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, I'm quite happy how the breakout groups have worked, because in the other group we actually have a teacher trainer, so that's quite handy.
And
so we have wind speeds here.
yeah, and in wind speed, like if you look at different regions, you quickly see that you have like regions like no, that doesn't have data. Denmark, which is weirdly enough not colored because the wind speed is too high. The average one.
Well spotted for that bug. Whether that wasn't I'm not one of those teachers or ex-teachers that says, "Did you spot my deliberate mistake?" That is a genuine mistake. So that is, it's
That is just the bar is it goes to 7. It's
yeah.
standard.
Okay, excellent. So the value is oh, so there you go. It's dropped in. Is higher than the the same there. Okay, excellent. So we can definitely address that quite easily.
Yeah, because here Denmark even goes to 8.75. Like Denmark has the large the beneficiary of being having one of the windiest offshore regions in Europe.
Absolutely, you're right.
And I assume that wind energy is very handy for that.
Oh yeah, so so we've got 2 different data sets there. So we got yeah, so you got the wind one is the one at the end there, the one that looks like a propeller. Yeah, we'll get that fixed. That's a good.
And then like I was also looking at solar a bit. And for solar, of course the Mediterranean region is a lot better. If you cycle through the years, you don't really see a change to the future.
Yeah,
it's just you see it becomes slightly sunnier on average.
If you go to the second filter down underneath variables, that's so that one that looks like a globe, you can change that to subdivisions, and then you'll get an even finer spatial scale. And I think this works. I think that works quite beautifully with solar radiation, because you can see the differences within countries there. And a question I would ask students is, say if you've got students in France or students in Spain or in Germany, but countries which have more than one subdivision, you can actually ask them a question. Okay, so which parts of France, which parts of Italy be suitable, and and then a teacher would also ask the question, why would this be the case as well? So but when we hopefully move to Era 5, which I don't know, I'm not sure if we're going to implement before the end of this contract, which is the end of April, but we most certainly do want to implement Era 5 into this. It will obviously get even finer resolution as well, which would be amazing.
Yeah. I see possibly an additional bug or slight annoyances about the fact that you guys use the NUTS data to draw the maps.
Yeah.
And when you go to subdivisions, those are not NUTS 2, but I think NUTS 1. I'm not sure.
They're based on Horizon. What are they based on? They're based on some energy, ENSOE energy divisions. They're energy, yeah. So they're based on.
The market sense.
Yes, and yeah, they don't quite overlap on the map because the base map is the map AmCharts map, and so when you lay over, in fact, the data on the base map, so the country scale was actually appearing as well. So we got that turned off. So it's not very clean. So that's something we definitely need to clean up to see from the teacher's point of view. So I'm now looking at the syllabus. And there's one of their units is global resource consumption security. And the syllabus actually doesn't go into much detail in terms of what's necessary, but one of the things that students need to learn in terms of this one is how do global development processes affect resource availability and consumption. So it's got here global and regional continental progress towards poverty, blah 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 blah. Measuring trends in resource consumption. So we've got electricity demand there. So measuring trends in resource consumption, including individual, national, and global ecological footprints. And then in terms of renewables, it mentions it here, which is an overview of global patterns and trends in the availability and consumption of, and it's got water, land, energy, including the relative and changing importance of renewables. So that is exceptionally open-ended, and I know with the GCSEs. So Lawrence, that's the like the high school diploma here in the United Kingdom. They're a little bit more specific with regards to what's required. So, but basically, but not for much more, to be honest. They'd say, like, again, what are the trends in energy transition, or describing trends in energy transition, or the move towards renewable energy, and that's basically it. So with regards to what this tool does, the Education Demonstrator does, you could argue it actually does more than what is required at a high school level. It provides the opportunity for you to go even deeper than what's required at a high school level. And inquiry questions like the one I've posed is not uncommon at high school level. It's something I certainly would have asked my students to investigate and write a report on, finish it for homework, that kind of thing. But so yeah, that's what else have we got here?
Well, I guess you could get into looking at seasonal differences as well, because
yes,
the areas of suitability may well kind of vary by season, depending on the type of generation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that the ERA interim data does allow you to go seasonal, monthly, is quite useful in that respect. Particularly when you see solar, in particular, when you've got a very massive contrast between winter and summer. But even in wind, when the winter, you tend to have more energy production with the weather systems more coming off the Atlantic in particular. And yeah, so with my students, what I would hope that they would get is things like they've spotted the pattern that like Western Europe is more, particularly the United Kingdom, Norway, Denmark, North Sea coastal areas are ideal for wind energy, and Southern Europe is more ideal for solar energy. I mean, if they come to those two conclusions and they back up those conclusions with evidence from the tool, then actually that's, from a teacher's point of view, that's actually a really good outcome.
Okay, so part of it is recognising that actually there's not a single answer. It depends what type of generation you're looking at. But would you also, and so the way we're doing the comparison now is just by looking at solar and saying, Southern Europe is better than Northern Europe, and then we're looking at wind and identifying the windier areas. but would you also expect them to, I guess, go on to the kind of next step and look at the absolute kind of numbers? So I mean, the absolute numbers for wind and solar are going to
Yeah.
be different. Actually, I don't know how different they.
Especially with the older students. So, for example, again, in the United Kingdom, I'm pretty certain it's similar in other countries, and Lawrence can say if it's the case in the Netherlands, but the older students, so the seniors, the 17, 18-year-olds, they do a lot more deeper coursework and quantitative-based coursework, and you know, downloading the data as you can with this would be very, very useful there. And then they would look, you know, they could download the whole spatial element of data set. So if you were to press the download button in the top right, you'd get every country from 2000, and we're going to clean this up, by the way, because in its raw format it's not quite useful, but you've got the whole of Europe, all of these subdivisions from 1979 all the way to 2100. Although I think if you've got the slider on historical, it will only download historical, and if you've got the slider on projected, it will only download projected, but we do need to kind of figure out an easier way to do that.
Yeah, at the moment, when I press the button, for me, it just downloaded the historical byte.
Yeah, and then if you go over to project, it will do the project. So, and that's not very clear for the user, and I would much prefer.
No, I also had not expected instant download when I pressed the download button.
Oh, I see.
So
okay.
That a pop-up saying maybe a selector might be handy there, because now if I press download, it just instantly downloads.
Yeah, and you've got a bit of a lag there, which ended up you having 4 pop up. Okay, here we are. And we have Mara, and we have Alberto, and we have Sophie. Welcome back. Okay, I hope I didn't cut you off mid-flow there. We had a really, really good discussion in the other there, and if we had a bit more time, what we would do in the future is we would all feedback perhaps each other, but we hope we found that quite useful. Now, the next thing we're going to do to finish off for the last 10 minutes is really an opportunity for you. So if you came up with any issues, frustrations, or any comments at all, this is now the chance to do so. So hopefully when you signed up for the workshop, you would have got an invite to something called Padlet. So that would have gone in your inbox, and hopefully it didn't go in your junk mail, but that might be worth checking. However, if you did not receive that invite, you can actually navigate to the link there. Now, the issue of going directly to the link is that you won't have the ability to create new cards, which is not really an issue, but you most certainly are able to rate cards, and you're certainly able to comment on cards. So let's take you to this here. It's another free reign thing, so you know, please do go about this as you so wish. So if we scroll over to the right, so if I pull this to the right here, there is various things that you can look at here, and there is a minimum requirement here. So if we go to any of these cards with a star on them, I'd like you to rate especially these ones. So these quick fire questions is, so if we start with these first, how likely you use these, how would you rate the colors? So if you give those a quick rate out of 5, please, if you'd like to expand, if you feel that the rating 1 to 5 is not adequate enough, then by all means click on that and give a comment just to elaborate your rating if you feel it's so necessary. And then all the others are basis for discussion, but the ones with stars allows you to rate. I would like you to rate those as well. So for example, Sophie, who's here, who knows it, to what extent does the demonstrator satisfies description of GIS? So you can comment on that, but the star there means it would be good if you could also give that a rating. So before you go, also, it'll be really good to get your feedback on the actual workshop itself. We are running another one in March. I'll come back to that a bit later. And here, if you've got some bugs, so someone's already commented there, that's fantastic. If you've got some frustrations, some bugs that you found, I know in our group we spotted a couple, drop them in there, and any general thoughts or comments in there. So I'll leave you loose, everybody on this here. Is there anybody having any issues accessing this? So if I Okay, so just to recap those 5 things. So I've got a screenshot here of the general layout. So free reign, respond to as much or as little as in whatever you dip. And if we run out of time, that's no problem at all. There is at least one question I must ask you at the end because it links something I asked you at the front. So we'll do that in a moment. But please, you've got this link. It'll be absolutely fantastic for you to come back to this in your own time if we do run out of time here, and respond to these cards. It's very, it's very, very useful for us going forward. In an ideal world, you respond to other people as well. And we, this is please rate the cards marked with a star, and you can comment on optional those, and feel free to start a new topic. So, if you've come in through the invite link on your email, then you're able to start a new topic if you so wish. But if not, you can just click on the comment box, comment symbol. So I will distract you back to this for one more time here. So I'll put this in here because this absolutely links to the start of the workshop. So the final thing I'd like to ask you before we part ways, and if you didn't get any of that Padlet finished, then that's absolutely fine. You can come back to that. It's not going to go away when the workshop finishes. It's not going to suddenly disappear. You're not going to lose access. So you can come back to that at your earliest convenience. So if you go to menti.com and the code this time is 332250, you'll be given a familiar question, because this was the question that was asked of you at the start of the workshop. So how confident are you in using the C3S Education Demonstrator at the end of this workshop? And then just a couple of lines about which aspect you are most or least confident about. So if you have a little, that would be fantastic. Trying to drag the window across. So there you go. Just so I'm not telling porkies, it was down here at the start. So that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you. So we've done that, and then we've got a few. Yep. Wonderful. This is exceptionally useful. So thank you so much. And we'll definitely take these to heart. We've taken everything. We're so proud of what we've done here at WMC, and we've really put a lot of time, effort, and everything in it. And we really, really, really do take feedback on board. It's something we're quite proud of, and we will continue to do so going forward. Right. So checking out. So how are you feeling post workshop? Well, I'm quite happy to check out first, but from a host's point of view, I would say, like, by the way, Cool as Ice is like, I'm feeling wonderful, perfect, brilliant. Whereas Climate Chaos is like, kind of panic stations. As a host, I feel a little bit hot. It's been logistically quite a bit of a challenge. I've enjoyed it. No, and I've definitely enjoyed your company and responses, but logistically it's been, I feel like I have to have octopus arms, but I've really, really enjoyed it. So in terms of the outcomes at the workshop, I actually feel fairly chill. Thank you, and I've really, really enjoyed it. So perhaps in the chat box or verbally, if you so wish, there's not very many of us here, so we can do it. If you would like to just type in one of those 5 options there. So how are you feeling at the end of this? Just give yourself the chance to check out. So Cool as Ice, you're feeling really, really lovely, relaxed. This is brilliant. Fairly chill, lukewarm, bit hot, Climate Chaos. This is nothing personal. It's your way to check out. So please be honest with your responses. So Cool as Ice, fairly chill, lukewarm, a bit hot, Climate Chaos. You tell I've had a little bit of fun with that checkout there. Go on, everybody. It's only a couple of words. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Claire. Right. So to finish off then, thank you so much. As I said, I really did enjoy this. And I'm really looking forward to actually, funnily enough, even though I feel fairly hot as the host, the next one is going to be on the 21st of March. Now, you might think to yourself, why would I've just been to this one, why would I come to this one? There will be some similarities, but that's okay, because in 2 months' time, we are really envisaging quite a lot of improvements, including taking your suggestions on board to the demonstrator. So it'll be worth considering coming to this as well. because the demonstrator won't be like massively different, but you'll definitely see improvements. So you'll have a different perspective going through things. We also hope to have a lot more teachers. So if you want to interact more with teachers, we're hoping that the 21st of March, which is a Saturday, 12 till 2, is more available for teachers who understandably found today's time very, very difficult. And the registration link's already available and it's there, but you don't have to worry about rushing to get that down, because I will make sure I email that out to everybody. And got any queries or questions, please email us at c3s-edu@wemcounts.org. Obviously, there's the link to the tool itself. Please spread the word. Please email your colleagues, your friends, your people you know who are teachers, students that you know. So Sophie, get that network for the PGC students out there. The more people we have using the tool, the more people we have feedback on in it, the better it will be. We really want to create something sustainable, something that's smooth and easy to use, and we can't do that without your help. On the tool, you've noticed the best way to do that for us is, well, for you guys is the Padlet. Is if you can get back to that in your own time, fantastic. But for people who come across the tool, it's quite simply, there's a little feedback button right here on the right hand side, and quick emoji and a quick little comment there. That'll be absolutely fantastic. And share your experiences with the hashtag C3SEduWemc. Okay, it did go very, very quickly, didn't it? Yes. Right. I know that from a teacher, and when you only got 60 minutes in front of a student, you usually only plan for 50 just in case. Right. Well, cheerio, everybody. Thank you very much for your company, and I hope to speak to you all soon. And please do not hesitate to get in touch if you so need to. Cheerio, everybody.